Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am so excited today to have my special guest. Her name is Kat Hargrave, and she is joining us from, where are you at now, Kat? New York?
I'm in Long Island City, New York.
Nice. Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here today. And I have to give a huge shout out to Kate, who introduced us. And
Mm-hmm.
I know so many Katie's now, so I have to keep everybody organized. But I'm so happy to meet you, Kat. Thank you for.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for having me. I spent the morning watching all of your videos, and I just think you're doing such great work. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm glad. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So, like, Kate already told me that you are just this wonderful, amazing, like, ball of sunshine, and I can already tell that just from talking to you
Oh.
for literally 5 minutes. So I'm just I love good energy, and you have such a great energy. So thank you, and for
Thank you.
bringing that to the table today. So just let's start off by just letting everybody know who you are, and we'll get into a little bit about what you do. So tell us a little bit about your background, maybe where you went to school, just kind of what brought you here to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm from Sugarland, Texas, originally. It's a little suburb outside of Houston. It sounds like it's a made up place, but it's not. I lived on Sugar Plum Circle, literally. It's the crazy thing. My husband always laughs. He's like, you can't tell people you're from there. It sounds made up. Place. I grew up singing and dancing. I'm like a musical theater girl, like through and through. It's what feeds my soul. And I went to school at Abilene Christian University in Texas, and I got my BFA in musical theater. And I then moved right to New York from there to pursue being an actress. And I spent a year like waiting tables, and I kind of like learned like, I did like the actor thing. About after a year, I booked my first gig in Hong Kong with Disney. And so I traveled to Hong Kong. I was there for about I guess my first contract was about 7 months. And then and like going back a little bit, I met my husband in college. So we were dating through all this time. Right after my first contract in Hong Kong, I got married, and then did a Disney cruise with my husband. We got to perform together. So that was a joy. And then just kind of like, this will be like a big spiel, but it's just kind of like my story. So I'll give it to you, and then we'll go from there. But so we did the cruise ship for about, my husband did 2 contracts and I did 1. So back in 2014, I was like, I love performing, but I told my husband, I was like, I think I could see myself doing something else. Like I love it, but it's just not, I just think I could do something else. And, the big phrase in acting is like, if you can see yourself doing anything else, like do that, because, pursuing a career in acting is really challenging. It's amazing and super fulfilling, but it can be really hard. And so I told my husband, I was like, there's 2 roles if I could just play these other 2 roles, like that would be, I would be really good being done. And those 2 roles were like, I really wanted to play Ariel in Little Mermaid. And then I really wanted to play Natalie in Next to Normal. And so like, kind of like hold that in your mind. So then we finished the cruise ship. We get off the boat. My husband wants to go back to grad school. So we moved to Cleveland, Ohio. And while I was there, I got a sales job to kind of like pay the rent and like kind of get us through that time. It was like my first time working at an office. It kind of like gave me a little inkling of what an agent kind of would do, except I was like agenting for something I was not passionate about at all. I was pitching for medical coders. So like, yeah, like not fun, but I learned how to like be in an office and kind of like the business savvy of it all. I kind of just learned how to do it. And then while I was there, my husband's in school, there was a local great theater who was doing Next to Normal. And I was like, that's funny. Like maybe I could do that. And I ended up getting to play Natalie in Next to Normal. I know it doesn't seem like it. I'm a lot older now, but back in the day, I could play a teenager, and I did that. And then so I was like, oh, that's cool. That's like kind of a check off of kind of what I wanted to do. And then literally a few months later, I found out that Hong Kong, they were revamping their show and they needed an aerial. And
Oh,
so I reached out and I kind of like pulled some connections and I got to go back and play aerial.
wow.
So it was kind of a full circle moment. And while I was in Hong Kong, I was like, it's time. Like,
Mhm.
who I feel very lucky that I've gotten to play the roles I've gotten to play. And, my husband, we were both just kind of like, well, okay, it's time for you to be done. You put this out into the world and it happened for you. So move on.
Yeah.
And so I knew I wanted to be an agent, and my husband and I moved back to New York.
Mhm.
And then I started looking for an internship, which is kind of its own story because it's extremely hard to get started in this industry on this side of the table if you don't have connections.
Sure.
A lot of internships go straight to college students.
Mhm.
And I was 26 at the time, starting out this like new career that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was an actress, so like that's kind of a red flag when like people apply for agency positions is like, I'm an actress. And I,
So,
yeah,
right.
they're like, do you really want to do
Background.
this? Yeah. And I was like, no, I promise. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I miraculously got an internship. And then from there, I worked at DDO Artist here in New York. I did kind of voiceover and on camera. And then I switched over to do TV film there. And then after about a year, I moved over to another agency called HCKR,
Mhm.
and I did strictly TV film there. And then now, recently, I just
Drum
got this
roll.
amazing opportunity during this pandemic to go over to DGRW here in New York and yeah, be my own agent there and get to do my own accounts and a lot of my accounts are TV film, which is kind of crazy and um, something that my husband and I are really passionate about. We started a blog called The Obvious Path, and we kind of started it when I was like transitioning over to being an agent because it was just like, why, our whole thing is just like, it's really easy to see people on Instagram or social media be like, booked this, or like got this amazing thing and not really hearing the backstory of that.
Yeah.
And
But it
because
took
there's a lot of hard
Mhm.
work and there's grit and it's really challenging. And so we were like, be really cool if we could interview people who kind of have their dream jobs or like on their way there and interview like their path to getting there.
Mhm.
Um, and to kind of humanize the experience,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
to make it less intimidating and to make it more approachable as an actor or as someone who's transitioning in the industry. And so looking back on my journey as an agent, the only reason I have this job right now is because I've worked with TV film for 3 years. And I would have never guessed that I would be a TV film agent. I would have said, I'll be a theatrical agent. Like that's my like that's what I love.
Yeah.
And and looking back, I mean, that's the reason I have this. And all of it fell into place
Mhm.
perfectly for me. Like looking back. In the time, it was
Just like,
really hard,
yeah.
challenging. I really hated some of my jobs. I was like, this is not fulfilling my soul. And now it's all paid off. So everyone has their own journey. We really wish that ours were way more straightforward and,
Mhm.
you know, that we could see the end goal. But looking back, it really has laid out for us pretty clearly. So that's been um, kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's a lot of like word vomit at you, but that's kind of like my whole backstory getting
Yeah.
into it.
No, I love what you just said though about the journey. People have seen that, and my acting teacher talks about that. Like, the you see just the top of the iceberg, but we don't see all that's underneath. There's
Yeah.
so much that goes into where how we got to where we are. And you're right about social media. All we see is the great stuff, book this, going here, doing that, but you don't see that I auditioned like 70 times this year and booked
Yeah.
jobs out of those 70.
Yeah.
You don't see those things. Or you, like you said, you went out there trying to find an internship or whatever the case might be. Like, it doesn't just happen like that, because
No.
it takes a lot of
Yeah.
chutzpah, a lot of
Yeah. And a lot of hustling and I've been very lucky in my situation to be where I'm at. Like I've advanced very quickly, which I'm very grateful for. But everyone is gonna have their lows
yeah.
and I just think it's way more humanizing and a lot like, very helpful to be able to talk about those times
Mhm.
even when you're on the top. So
Mm.
it could because it's so much to me, it's just way more fulfilling to hear that too, and to celebrate the success, knowing how hard it was to get there
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
kind of fun, you know?
True. Kat, tell us like what's the process like of becoming where you are at now? So you mentioned internship, and then like what you said something about having accounts. Like, so what's the difference? Maybe if
Sure.
someone wants to be an agent out there. Like, so what's the
Yeah.
difference of getting to the place where you're at now?
So, usually you have to start out as an intern, which
Right.
I have my own issues with, but it's like usually you're unpaid and
Right.
you
Okay.
work pretty hard. And that's something I really feel passionate about is when I'm ever in a situation to hire someone on, like, or to have an intern, I really want to be able to pay them. I just really believe that that's a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And it's just not helpful. But for me, I had to intern, and luckily we had some Disney money saved up, so we were able to get us through that time. But my internship was 3 months,
Okay.
and basically I worked 4 days a week, and yeah, I mean, it's like almost full time, and you kind of like learn the ropes.
Yeah.
And then from there you start applying for assistant positions. And then so for me, like, I applied to DDO, and I was an assistant in their voiceover department.
Mhm.
And then the next step up would be to be a junior agent,
Yeah.
which is what I did there. And I went over to TV, film, and commercial.
Mhm.
And then another segue is to be an associate agent,
Yeah.
which is what I did next at HCKR. And so basically every office can work differently. For me and my current position, we're like a mid-sized boutique agency. There's we have like our owner, and then we who recently just stepped down and signed over the business to my partner. So there's two of us who are like senior agents, and then we will have like a junior agent and then an assistant.
Got it.
And then from there, we split it up by casting director. So like I'll work with primarily a lot of TV film casting directors. And so we share the same roster. So like my partner and I, we both have the same roster, the same amount of people that we work with, and we share them all. But like if it's a Broadway appointment, it'll probably come from my partner who I work with. And if it's a TV appointment, it'll probably come from me. So basically, if like Bowling Nisha calls our office, they know to ask for me and not someone else. So it's just, and I mean, every office works differently
I was gonna
depending on the
say,
size, but usually it's by casting director. So when I say accounts, it's just like who I work with, my casting director accounts.
gotcha.
Um, yeah, does that make sense? And then from there, you can kind of advance to be your own agent or start your own business, or, you can kind of hop around once you've kind of crossed over to being an agent.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've never really understood that before, so that was very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. And I came into it completely blind. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just want to like work with actors that I love. That's really it.
Hey, it's what it was, and it worked out for you, didn't
Yeah,
it?
that's okay.
So congratulations on
Thank
getting,
you.
reaching your goals and what you had set out to do. Because I know we all have those things. I know I'm that type go-getter type person too. We all have these things that we see ourselves that we want to do, and to accomplish that, that's pretty amazing. So
Thanks.
congratulations.
Thanks. So very lucky.
Yes, yes. So now, like I said, you're an agent at DGRW, and obviously you have your clients and stuff. And what advice, maybe this will help your clients if they watch. What can actors do to make their agent's job easier? What are some things we can do?
Sure. I mean, for me, I love to know my clients personally. I'm very hands-on. I think we're a hands-on office, but trust is just a big thing. And it goes both ways. I mean, I look at an agent client relationship as a partnership. Like, no one is each other's boss. My job here is to get you to your next step in your career,
Mhm.
solely that. So for me, it's just being able to trust that I am definitely hustling for you and pushing you to get into rooms, and vice versa, that I'm trusting you, that you're, continuing to like hone your craft and work on your skill set. If you can afford to take classes, take classes. But just having trust there, and for me, over communication, just like over communicate with me. I want to know if you're upset about something. I want to know if you are celebrating something. Like I'm a relationship based
Mhm.
person in my life. And so in my professional career, that I really carry that into it too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. So true. I am all about communication. For me, that is huge, huge. Because
Hmm.
even like you said, aside from even acting, because we don't know what the other person's thinking unless we talk about it. And,
Yeah,
so that is definitely very important. So I'm glad to hear that. Awesome.
absolutely.
So what do you think? And this is actually a question that I have asked before and have thought about before, because I've battled this thing between agent manager. What is
Sure.
the difference between an agent and a manager? Um, I at one time had both, but then I felt like I don't know if I need both at this stage in my career. Um,
Hmm.
I see, that certain managers can function like agents in a way. So,
Yep.
what do you feel is the difference? Like, what do you think?
My opinion is that you just want to have representation who is crazy about you.
Mhm.
Because if they are not crazy about your talent, they're not going to be pushing you to get into rooms. So, like, I always tell like friends who are meeting with agents, I'm like, you need to go with who you feel most confident in and who you feel like understands your talent and understands your goals.
Mhm.
And if those are not on the same page, they're not the right fit for you. And
Yeah.
so, if that's a manager, great.
Mhm.
I always tell this story, but like my husband showcased and he had like, he would kill me for saying this, but he had like, I'm going to brag on him. He had like 5 agent meetings and a couple manager meetings and here in New York from his showcase. And so he met with all the agents and he was like, they're all really nice. I don't really feel like I'm clicking yet, or I really feel like it's there. And he met with his current manager and really felt like he understood him, he took time for him, and had a great reputation. And so he actually chose to go with his manager, for the time being, and didn't take an agent along with that. And I think there's a time in your career where you probably need to have both.
Mhm.
um,
Definitely.
but starting out, I mean, and like he's had great success and doesn't regret that decision at all. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the agencies he met with. They're wonderful agents. He just felt like for him, his
Chemi-
manager really understood him and his goals for the first year.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I mean, I think the difference is, I mean, technically, if if a manager and an agent are working together in a fruitful way,
Yeah.
I look at managers as another teammate. So we're not competing for appointments. We are solely working for the actor's career and taking them to the next level.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of teammates. So like, if you feel like you can afford to give the other percentage away along with an agent, do it. Like that's great. I mean, for people starting out, it's kind of asking the question of, well, if I'm going to take a regional gig and get, an amount of money, but am I going to be okay giving away 20% of
I
my
think
income?
that's where I had the problem.
Yeah, and that was a lot of my husband's problem. Like for his first year starting out, he was like, "I'm going to be doing a lot of regional gigs." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm probably good to just have one, and then I'll add one on later. Um, I think like technically speaking, like managers should be very hands on. They should be like reading a script when you're getting an audition and talking you through your audition.
Mhm.
Um, you know, some managerial things I do. I love to be involved in self tapes. Like I give feedback for self tapes. Like we are a small enough office where we can do that.
Mhm.
We are very involved in the headshot process. We like to help choose those, even help choose photographers at some points. Um, we kind of have like a network of acting coaches that we work with, photographers that we work with, voice teachers that we work with. So when I'm coming to my client to have a harder conversation about like, hey, your self tapes really aren't working, I'm coming into the conversation with a solution
Mhm.
of, hey, like, why don't we try this acting coach out? Or why don't we look at this kind of equipment if we can afford to at this point in time? And those are things that managers do too.
Right.
Um, like I say, like we're kind of a smaller office, so we work as managers and agents and
I
really
was
like to be
good.
hands on.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically speaking, those are manager things to do. If you're with like a big powerhouse agency like ICM or something or whatever,
Yeah.
um, they're probably not going to do that just because they have a big roster and they're not able to service their clients in that way. But
Mhm.
that's what a manager could come into. So, I mean, kind of a word vomit answer again, but I think it's kind of your call of when you feel it's appropriate to have that many team members on your team. And if you feel like they're all on the same page and are really fighting for you and rooting for you, then I say go for it.
You're saying so many amazing things. It's so everything
Oh,
is so true though, and it's
yeah.
like confirmation for me and a lot of
Yeah.
things that I've been going through over the past few years, because it's like you have to have that connection with the person, or else it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's so
Mhm.
huge, the connection. And then when it comes to also agent versus manager, you know, that was my situation too. Is like, when you're doing co-stars, like that's a lot of money out of your check to give to two separate people. So I'm like, should I just stay with an agent for a while until I kind of like build up to recurring or guest stars or whatever, and then maybe look into a manager. So those are some things to think
Yeah.
about. That was a good answer. That was a really good answer, thank you.
Oh, of course.
um so now we know right now we're in this pandemic.
Yeah.
We're in this pandemic right now. It's been like for I mean I don't know how are you agents feeling, actually. I'll start there. How are you feeling?
That's so nice. You know, I think every agency is different right now.
Yeah.
There are some agencies that are having to close. I think DGRW has really pivoted in a different way, and um, you know, we're trying to think, we're trying to be thinking about the future rather than like in the moment, and how we can really be prepared for when things open up. But we're starting to see TV film trickle back in, and so we're having stuff to work on, which is exciting. But it's a different time, and we're going to be coming into a new industry, which I'm hoping will be really good.
Yeah. What did you do during that whole time when you're and during you guys were just like
You know,
young
well,
people?
so yeah. I mean, well, and like in a way, the silver lining for me, because I just switched over about a month ago, is that I'm able to really know the clients. So like I have a lot of client meetings every day on Zoom to just get to know the people. And I think pre COVID, if we were in normal,
Yeah.
yeah, I would have never had time to do that. So like that's been really helpful for me, is just to be able to take time and get to know my new clients and talk about their goals, and also get to know them as human beings, because that's what really fuels my work.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. But it's interesting, and I think I've really taken this time to try to evaluate what kind of agent I want to be, not only in this pandemic, but also with the reminder of how much work we have to do in our industry to be more equitable.
Mm.
And that is something that we've really talked a lot about in our office. And how do we lean into that? How do we push back when when things come out that are not okay, as far as like breakdowns, or and having these conversations with our clients to be like, how can we work together to make change?
Yeah.
That needs to happen. It does.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It really does. And when you now, what are you seeing, like any certain trends when it comes to, the new way of doing things, as far as like self tapes? And because I know I've gotten a couple things come through, and they'll say like you have to quarantine for like 2 weeks before you go on set. And I heard
Yeah.
rumor, I don't know if this is true, but I heard something that they'll like hire a person for the gig, but then they'll have like a backup person in case that person gets sick and can take over their place. Like, I mean, are these things that you're hearing too, or I mean?
I haven't heard the backup person yet, but we recently booked a few things for some network shows here in New York, and it's different. Some TV shows are saying they have to be able to 2-week quarantine if they're from out of town. Some people are like, we are only seeing New York locals, so like you have to be in the city. And then other people are, I mean, they're saying you can be here and then we will test every day on set.
Right.
Or a lot of testing, even like midday testing. So like I think every network is going to be different, but I do feel hopeful and assured that things are like, they are abiding safety protocols, and that things are actually going to be picking up sooner than later. So that is good. I mean, I haven't heard the backup person, which is a
Okay.
little frightening.
Yeah,
But
I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh.
no, yeah, I really hope that's not the case. We haven't seen that yet, but
Okay. All right.
I don't know. Hopefully people won't get sick if they're quarantining and
Yeah.
being tested.
Safe.
That's
Yeah.
the hope.
Yeah. I know the testing thing. It's funny. I actually, I have a short film that I have created. I have a writer and everything, but we have to put it on hold till next year because you have to test like every day, and that's gonna like shoot the budget up. So I'm like,
Yep.
what in the world?
Yeah. And it's taking more time to film. I mean,
Uh,
even like for a co-star, it's taking like 2 days rather than one,
right.
because everything is going to take more time. And yeah, it's just going to be more money,
Yeah.
you know?
It's gonna be a whole different world.
Yep. Yes,
But
it
it's
is.
really new and interesting. We just don't know what's gonna come of it. So we just have
Yeah,
to kind of stay positive and
absolutely.
you
And
know,
it will come back. We keep saying it's not a matter of if, but when.
yeah.
I mean, we hopefully we get a vaccine and
Yeah.
sooner than later, and that can really help things theatrically. But I think TV film is finding a way to start up, which is encouraging.
That's so great. Is there any other tips or advice you want to give about as actors for actors, go
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to share before I pivot to a different subject?
Oh, I mean, I just think when looking for an agent, for me, just like I love working with good human beings, so like first and foremost, obviously we are attracted to talent, but I mean, there's so many talented people. Um, but just being a human being in the room and being someone that is nice to work with and an actual person is extremely helpful. So just like be you, and I look for an agent or a manager where you can actually have agency within your agency. Like you
Yeah.
need to be able to voice your opinion, and it's your career, and like we're here to help, but we're not here to tell you what your career is going to be or should be. You're the one doing it, so find someone who you can have open communication with. And if you're looking for that and you find someone that you're like, I really want to get in with them, like really be specific and target that agency, like reach out to them, push to them, and
Mhm.
be very specific of why you're doing it.
Mhm. And don't give up because I've heard stories before
Yeah,
that, maybe now is not the time, but maybe, 6 months from now, maybe
absolutely.
else is needed, your specific type or whatever. So don't ever give up, on that. So I
Absolutely.
agree. I agree. Yeah, it's so true about being a part of a team, that's
Hmm.
so important because I think even when it comes to casting directors, I mean, I learned this, I would say about, I don't know, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, where I was like, when I started going in the room, I started just seeing them as people and I stopped
Yeah.
seeing them as being this like, they hold the key to getting me this job.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, like my conversation was more comfortable and then I started booking more because it was just kind of like easy. So,
Absolutely.
and it should be that way, even if, you go to an aging meeting or whatever, just like you said, be
Yeah.
human, be human.
Yes. It
That's
is
how
okay.
when you connect with the person is when you,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Of
So
course.
switch gears because I'm like myself too. I like to get to know the people I interview a little bit better. Just keep track
Yeah.
of me. But so just especially since we've been in pandemic, I know I have caught up on a lot of TV
Ooh, so good. So there's so much to watch.
stuff. I mean, and especially with streaming, you have like Apple TV, you have like all kinds of stuff
Oh,
to watch.
so
So
good.
overwhelming sometimes. Like, oh, what do I watch today? Um, Yeah. So, is there any like TV show or film or something you've watched during quarantine that you really loved or inspired you or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. I watched Just Mercy when that came out. Oh my gosh, like incredibly done, also extremely informative. It's so good. Just like everyone needs to watch that.
Oh,
Everyone.
yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like total opposite end of that would be, I don't know if you've watched The Great on Hulu.
The what? The
It's
Great?
called The Great. It's about Catherine the Great, and it is hysterical.
Really?
It's like, yes, it's it's like dark comedy. It's very good. But that has been something that we binge watched in like 2 days. It was
Love it.
amazing. The
Love it.
acting is phenomenal. That's been really fun.
And we need
I mean,
more of it. So,
yes, we do. I mean, like the like go-to is like I watched Never Have I Ever. That was really great.
oh, that was good.
Little Fires Everywhere was wonderful.
Yes, yes.
So good. Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, we've been watching a lot. Those are probably some of the favorites, but yeah.
I know. I've been watching so much too. It's like, yeah, I'm, because I don't have like cable anymore, so I just do streaming stuff because
That's how we are too. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like TV is like a bunch of channels with nothing to watch, so I just do like Hulu, Netflix,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, I've seen a few of the ones you mentioned, but I'm gonna have to check out the greats. That sounds like
Yes, you should.
that.
It's very specific. I don't know if it's for everyone, but I think it's so good. I'm like such a big fan.
That's my guilty pleasure. Well, it's not on now, but when I binge with Superstore,
Yes.
so like silly and goofy, but I have that part of me, that side of me. So
Yes.
I just
And
love,
that's needed. We need that right now. I mean, truly.
yeah, yeah.
Watch whatever to get you through at this point. I mean, that's great.
Yep. So much fun. So, yeah, well, good. I'm glad you found ways to keep yourself occupied and watch some fun, cool stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, Kat. And the last thing I want to ask you, one of the things about my show, and even me as a person, is that I'm very passionate about everything that I do. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about changing the name of my show to have the word passion in it because everything that I do, all the people that I love and care about, like I just have that like just that passion towards everything. And so my question for you is, which I'm going to try to ask everybody, what are you passionate about?
That's so good. I mean, for me, I think I'm just a relationship-based person. So building relationships with people and being a cheerleader for those people is really what motivates me and what I'm like the reason I'm an agent and is what I'm passionate about. I mean, I don't know. I think I so my in-laws are marriage therapists.
Oh,
Yeah, so which I love. Yeah, it's amazing. But marrying into that was a little intimidating coming in. I was like, hello, these are all my issues. But no, they are like wonderful gems. I am extremely close to them. But that being said, we're a relationship based family. And I think those are the most important things that I've learned not only in my life, but in my marriage and like professionally speaking. I think, building relationships and walking in that can be professional or personal, but cheering those people on
mhm.
and being able to expand my mind to learn new things through them. So relationships, I guess. That's the answer.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's perfect. That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Kat, for sharing all
Of
of you shared
course.
today and just for your time. That especially, I know
Of
agent
course.
life is busy, so thank you for your time. And
Anytime.
so, how can people find you? Like, follow you on social media? And you mentioned earlier
Sure.
the blog, so can they check out your
Yeah.
blog
Oh,
too?
absolutely. So my Instagram is at Kat Hargrave,
Mhm.
and the blog it's like in my bio, but it's called The Obvious Path, and it's just at The Obvious Path. So feel free to add, follow, whichever. I'm all about it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to meet
Thank you. It's so lovely to meet you. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
you. So much fun. Thank you so much for watching. Please go over to Instagram, follow Kat Hargrave on her journey, and as well follow me at Keisha Barr on Instagram and YouTube for more episodes just like this that you'll be inspired by passionate people who are doing things in their industry.